My name is Vivian. I'm 32, and I work as a financial compliance analyst for a credit union in Phoenix. I audit loan applications. I verify documentation. I know what a fabricated hardship looks like in a financial record. And I know what a genuine one looks like. And I know the difference before I have finished reading the first page. I know all of that because my job is to find the gap between what someone claims and what the documentation actually supports. Most people who misrepresent their circumstances do it with a confidence that assumes the person reviewing their file is not looking carefully. I am always looking carefully. It is the only way this job works. I did not expect to need that skill. For my own brother, my savings account had $31,000 in it on a Monday morning in March. 4 years of deliberate accumulation. A down payment fund I had been building since I was 28, with one specific goal: to buy a home before I turned 33. I had a spreadsheet. I had a target neighborhood. I had a meeting scheduled with a mortgage broker, April 14th. On Tuesday, my brother Colin called. His voice was thin. Careful. The kind of careful that belongs to someone performing illness rather than experiencing it. Though I did not know that yet. He said he had been admitted overnight with chest pains. He said the doctors were concerned about his heart. He said he was waiting on test results and he was scared. And he was sorry to call me like this, but he didn't know what else to do because the bills were already starting and he didn't have the coverage and he needed help. I transferred $18,000 to his account by Thursday. On Friday, I found him on Instagram. Not his account. A friend's account. A photograph posted at 11 in the morning of a group of people at a pool at a resort in Scottsdale, 35 minutes from my apartment, tagged with the location, time stamped, the same Friday. I was sitting at my desk, thinking about my brother in a hospital bed. Colin was in the photograph. He was holding a drink with a paper umbrella. He was smiling the smile of a man who was not in a hospital and had not been in one recently, and was, by all visible evidence, having an excellent Friday morning. I saved the photograph. I opened a new tab. I looked up the resort. Then I called my attorney. Then the police non-emergency line. And then I drove to Scottsdale. Welcome to the Family Ledger, where we talk honestly about money, family, and what happens when someone mistakes your love for a resource they can liquidate. If you've ever had someone manufacture a crisis to access what you built, this story is for you. Subscribe, drop a comment, and let me start at the beginning. I want to tell you about Colin before I tell you what he did. Because the action without the history is just a crime story. And this is more than that. Colin is 35, 3 years older than me. He is the kind of person who has always lived in the register of almost. Almost stable. Almost sorted. Almost on the verge of the thing that was going to change his trajectory. He has good ideas. Genuine ones. And the particular ability to communicate enthusiasm for those ideas in a way that makes other people feel it too. He has started 4 businesses in 10 years. A food delivery service, before food delivery was saturated, that ran for 8 months. A custom merchandise operation that lasted 14 months and ended when his manufacturing partner dissolved the arrangement. A real estate wholesaling venture that produced 2 transactions before the market shifted in a direction he hadn't planned for. A fitness supplement brand that had a good 3 months. and then an expensive 6 months, and then nothing. He is not a stupid person. He is a person who is very good at starting, and very bad at the part that comes after starting, the long, undramatic work of sustaining something. When the initial momentum has absorbed into the ordinary grind of it, I had helped him before, not with large amounts, with the smaller ones that accumulate into a pattern you don't fully see until you add them up. $400 when the merchandise business had a cash flow gap. $800 when the real estate wholesaling needed a software subscription he couldn't cover that month. $1,200 when the supplement brand had a shipping dispute and the funds were frozen while it resolved. Altogether, over 5 years, I had given Colin approximately $6,200. Not loans in any documented sense. Transfers accompanied by the understanding between siblings that you help when you can, and the other person does what they can with it. He had paid back $800 of it, across 3 installments, spread over 2 years, and then the repayments had stopped, and I had not pressed. I want to be honest about what that history means. It means I had already established a pattern of responding to Colin's financial distress with money and without documentation. It means he had learned, through 5 years of evidence, that I would respond. And it means that when he called from a hospital room with a story about his heart, the history I was drawing on when I decided to help was a history that had been shaped, at least in part, by his understanding of exactly how I would respond. I do not say this to blame myself. I say it because the full picture matters, and the full picture includes the context he had carefully cultivated. Our family is small. Our parents divorced when I was 14 and Colin was 17. The split had the particular quality of splits that happen when two people have been wrong for each other for a long time, and everyone knows it, and nobody says it. Our father remarried, lives in Oregon. Our mother lives in Tucson, an hour and 40 minutes from Phoenix, and we see her on holidays and occasionally in between. Colin and I were close, in the way siblings are close when a family reduces, and the two of you become the primary architecture of each other's familiar world. Sunday calls, occasional dinners, the low-maintenance consistency of people who like each other and do not require a lot of effort to maintain the connection. I had watched his businesses start and slow and stop, with the particular mix of hope and resignation that comes from loving someone whose relationship with follow-through is complicated. I had not lectured him about it. I had not managed his choices. I had simply been available when the gaps opened, and I had trusted that the pattern between us was built on something real underneath the financial friction. I think it was. I think it still is. Though what it is now is different from what it was before March. What I had not understood, not fully, was how much the cumulative debt between us had shifted something in how Colin experienced our relationship. He owed me $5,400 by my accounting and had stopped attempting to repay it. In his accounting, I suspect, the money had been reclassified over time from debt to something less defined, something closer to the general flow of resources between siblings who had different relationships with financial stability. And once that reclassification was complete in his mind, the step from asking for help to manufacturing a reason for help was smaller than it should have been. I am not making that argument in his defense. I am making it because I think understanding how these things happen is more useful than simply saying he was a bad person who did a bad thing. He was a person who had learned that a certain story produced a certain result,
and who escalated the story. To get the result he needed, the phone call came on a Tuesday at 6:47 in the evening. I know the time because my phone records it, and because I have looked at that record more than once since March. Each time with the particular purpose of remembering exactly what I knew at each moment, so that I am honest with myself about what I could and could not have seen. His voice, when he called, was the voice I described. Then, careful. He said he had been at the gym Monday evening and had felt tightness in his chest and shortness of breath. And his workout partner had called 911. He said they had kept him overnight. He said the cardiologist was running tests and was concerned about a possible arrhythmia. He said he was scared. He said it slowly, with pauses between the words. In the specific way he said things when he wanted me to feel the weight of them. I asked which hospital. He said, Banner University Medical Center. A real hospital. A credible one. The name of it landed with the weight of an institution. I asked if I should come. He said no. He was okay. He just needed help with the bills. Because his insurance had a high deductible, and the out-of-pocket was going to be significant. And he didn't have the liquidity right now. With the supplement business in its current state. I asked how much he needed. He said. He wasn't sure yet. He said. Probably between 15 and 20,000, depending on what the tests showed. And what treatment they recommended? 15 to 20,000 dollars. I want to tell you what I felt when he said that number. Not immediately. Not analytically. What I felt was the pull. The same pull I had felt every time he had called, with a gap that needed filling, magnified by the word arrhythmia and the word scared, and the image of my brother in a hospital bed with monitors attached. The pull that lives in the body, before the brain has time to review it. I said I would figure it out. He said he was sorry. I said, family doesn't apologize for needing family. I transferred $18,000 on Thursday. I did not ask for documentation of the bills. I did not ask for the hospital's billing department number to pay directly. I transferred it to his personal account with a text that said, for the medical bills, pay me back when you can, love you. He responded with a heart emoji. Friday. I was at my desk, processing loan applications, when I took a break and opened Instagram on my phone. I was not looking for Colin specifically. I was doing the absent scrolling that people do when they need 5 minutes away from a screen of numbers. I saw the photograph in my Explore feed, surfaced by the algorithm, because I followed the account that posted it, a college friend of Colin's named Garrett, who posted regularly about fitness and weekend activities, and who I had followed years earlier and rarely thought about. The photograph was captioned, Pool Day, finally, with a location tag for the Andaz Scottsdale Resort. Garrett was in it. 2 other people I didn't recognize. And Colin, in swim trunks, on a resort lounge chair, with a paper umbrella drink and the relaxed posture of someone who had been at a pool for a comfortable amount of time. The timestamp on the post was 11:23 a.m. It was currently 2:17 p.m. The resort was 34 minutes from my office. I looked at the photograph. For a long time. Not from shock. Exactly. From the specific sensation of 2 things that cannot both be true, existing simultaneously in my awareness, while my brain worked out which one to release. Then I saved the photograph to my phone. I opened a new browser tab and searched Banner University Medical Center patient inquiry. and spent 4 minutes establishing that they had no mechanism for me to verify a specific patient's admission without being a listed family member, and that Colin had not listed me as one. Then I searched Andaz Scottsdale Resort and looked at their pool photographs on the website and confirmed it was the same pool in Garrett's photograph. Then I called my attorney. If you've ever had the moment where you understood something completely and had to decide what to do with the understanding before you had finished feeling it, leave a comment. Tell me how you held both things at once. And if you haven't subscribed to the Family Ledger yet, do it now, because the calls I made in the next 30 minutes changed everything about how the afternoon went. My attorney is a woman named Patricia, who handles civil matters including fraud and financial disputes. I had used her once before for a contract issue at work, and had kept her number in my phone with the same professional instinct that makes me keep useful contacts I hope not to need. She picked up on the second ring. I told her the situation in 7 minutes. The transfer, the call, the hospital story, the photograph, the timestamp. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Do you have documentation of the transfer?" I said yes. Bank records showing the outgoing transfer to his account on Thursday. She said, "Do you have the photograph and the timestamp?" I said yes. Saved to my phone and backed up to my cloud storage in the time between finding it and calling her. She said, "Do you have any documentation of his claim about the hospitalization? Text messages, voicemail, anything in writing?" I said I had the text exchange that followed the transfer, his response with the heart emoji, but the original call had been by phone, and I had not recorded it. She said, "That's fine. The transfer record and the photograph together tell a clear story." She said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want the money back, and I want it on record that this happened." She said, "You have two options that can run simultaneously: a civil claim for the recovery of the funds, which she could file, and a police report for wire fraud, which I file myself, which creates the criminal record. Both appropriate. The photograph significant because it establishes that his stated circumstances were false at the time the transfer was made." She said, "There's a third option." I said, "What is it?" She said, "You go to the resort." She said, "If he is there right now, a confrontation in person, with a witness present, creates a contemporaneous record that is difficult to dispute afterward. It also gives you the option of requesting an immediate return of funds before anything is formally filed, which sometimes produces faster results than the legal process alone." She said, "I would advise taking someone with you, a witness who is not a family member." I said, "I'll call you from the car." I texted my coworker and close friend Diana from the parking garage. I said, "I need you for something important. Can you leave in 10 minutes? I will explain everything in the car." Diana texted back, "Before I reach my car," she said, "already getting my keys. I want to tell you about Diana, because she matters more than a witness role suggests. Diana has been my closest friend at work for 3 years. She is 34, sharp. She has the particular quality of friends who assess situations accurately, before they respond to them emotionally. She had heard about Colin before. The way close friends hear about complicated siblings, incrementally, over years of conversation. In the car, I told her everything: the call, the transfer, the photograph, the timestamp. She listened, and then she said three things. She said, "I'm glad you called Patricia first." She said, "I'm driving." She said, "Do you want to talk about how you're feeling, or do you want to focus on what we're doing?" I said, "Both. Walk and chew gum." She said, "Okay, tell me while I drive." I told her how I was feeling while she drove, and she listened, and occasionally said things that were useful, and did not try to resolve what could not be resolved in a car on the way to a resort in Scottsdale. She was exactly who I needed in the passenger seat. We arrived at the Andaz at 3:42 p.m. The Engas Scottsdale is a beautiful resort. I want to say that, because it matters to the specificity of what I felt walking into it. The lobby is open and warm, with desert plants arranged with the intentionality of a space designed to make you feel like you've arrived somewhere. The pool area is visible from the lobby through large glass doors, the same pool from Garrett's photograph. I could see Colin from the lobby. He was in a different chair from the photograph, which meant he had been there long enough to relocate. He had a different drink. He was on his phone. He looked from the distance of the lobby, exactly as relaxed as he had looked in the photograph. I said to Diana, "That's him." She said, "I see him." I said, "I'm going to walk to the pool. Stay close enough to hear." She said, "I'm right here." I walked through the glass doors to the pool area. The afternoon was warm in the specific way Scottsdale is warm in March. The dry, bright warmth that feels more hospitable than summer heat. Other guests were at their chairs. A server moved between the umbrella tables. I walked to Colin's chair, and I stood at the end of it, and I said his name. He looked up from his phone. The expression that crossed his face in the first 2 seconds was the most honest thing I had seen from him in years. It moved through. Surprise. Then a rapid calculation. Then an attempt at reconstruction. Then the collapse of the reconstruction. All in approximately 2 seconds. What remained after the collapse was something I had not seen on his face before. Something past the performance. Something stripped. And still. He said, "Vivian." I said, "I'd like to talk to you." I kept my voice level. He looked at Diana, who had positioned herself a few feet to my right, close enough to hear, far enough to signal she was present and paying attention. He said, "Who is that?" I said, "A friend." "She's here as a witness." He said, "A witness to what?" I sat down in the empty chair beside him, because standing over someone is a power position, and I did not need a power position. I needed a clear conversation. I said, "You called me Tuesday night. From what you said was a hospital bed at Banner University Medical Center. You told me you had chest pains, a possible arrhythmia, and medical bills you couldn't cover. I transferred you $18,000 on Thursday." He was looking at the pool. I said, "This morning at 11:23, Garrett posted a photograph of this pool with you in it. I am looking at you right now in the same resort where that photograph was taken. You were not in a hospital. You were not in a hospital on Tuesday." He said, "Vivian." I said, "I want the $18,000 back." He said, "I don't have it." I said, "Where is it?" He looked at his drink. He said he had used part of it for some debts he owed, and some of it was still in his account. He said he had meant to tell me. He said he had been in a bad situation, and he had panicked, and he had thought he could figure out a way to make it right before I found out. I said, "How much is still in your account?" He said, "Around 7,000. Gone in 72 hours. Into whatever debts he owed, to whoever he owed them to." I said, "I need you to transfer what remains back to me today, right now, from your phone." He said, "Vivian, if I do that, I won't be able to cover." I said, "Colin." I said it the way you say a name when the conversation is over and the decision is what remains. I said, "I've called Patricia. She is filing a civil claim today. I am going to the police station after I leave here to file a report for wire fraud. If you transfer the 11,000 back to me today, I will tell Patricia to note your cooperation in the filing. If you don't, I will not." He looked at me for a long time. I looked back. He picked up his phone, opened his banking app, made the transfer. My phone vibrated with the notification. I said, "Thank you." He said, "Are you still going to file the report?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Even now?" I said, "Colin." You told me you were in a hospital. You let me picture you in a hospital bed. And you took $18,000 of my savings on that story. And you were at a resort pool. Yes. I am still going to file the report. He looked at the pool again. I stood up. I said, I love you. That has not changed. This has also not changed. Both of those things are true. And I am living with both of them. He didn't say anything. Diana and I walked back through the glass doors, through the lobby, to the parking lot, and got in her car. She drove. I looked at the desert going past the window for a while. Then, I called Patricia from the car. The police report was filed that evening. The detective assigned to the case, a man named Torres, was professional and thorough. He reviewed the bank records, the photograph, the timestamp, the text exchange, and the transfer notification from the pool. He said the documentation was clear, and that the case had a strong factual basis. Colin was contacted by Detective Torres the following week. He did not deny what had happened. His attorney, whom he retained within 2 days, negotiated with Torres's office and with Patricia simultaneously. Colin's position was that he intended to make full restitution, and that he had cooperated at the scene by returning what remained. The $7,000 gap was the subject of the negotiation. The outcome was a civil judgment for the remaining $7,000, with a structured repayment schedule, a formal agreement that the criminal filing would be held in abeyance, contingent on compliance with the repayment schedule, and a clause that any default would result in the criminal process resuming. Patricia said it was a reasonable outcome given the circumstances. I agreed with her assessment. The first repayment came 90 days later. It has come every 90 days since. I track it in a spreadsheet, the way I track everything financial. Not from distrust of the process, but from the professional habit of a woman who has learned that the documented record is the only version that holds when things get complicated. I want to tell you about the conversation with my mother, because it belongs to the full shape of the story. My mother called 3 days after the resort. Colin had told her. Her version of her own feelings was complicated. She said she understood why I had filed the report, and she did not ask me to withdraw it. She also said she was heartbroken. She said she had not known he was capable of this, and she was sitting with what that meant. About a son she thought she understood. I said, Mom, he's still the person you know. He's also a person who did this. Both are true, she said. How do you hold both of those things? I said, carefully, and not all at once. Some days I hold one, and some days I hold the other. And some days I manage both, and some days I manage neither. And that's what it looks like right now. She said, Are you okay? I said, I'm getting there. The mortgage appointment is rescheduled for May. I have most of the down payment back. I'm okay, she said. I'm proud of how you handled it, I said. I'm proud of you for not asking me not to file. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, It wouldn't have been right to ask you that. I said, No. But you loved him enough that it would have been understandable, she said. I love you enough not to. The mortgage appointment was in May. My loan officer, a woman named Bet, reviewed my financials with the thoroughness of someone who takes the trust a client places in them seriously. She looked up at one point and said, You've had some account activity since we last spoke. I said, Yes. A family situation that has been resolved. She looked at the account and at the current balance, and at the repayment record that had begun 90 days after the civil judgment. She said, The current balance qualifies for the product you were originally looking at. The repayment income actually strengthens your application. Slightly. I looked at her. She said, It's treated as recurring documented income when it comes from a civil judgment with a payment schedule. You're receiving regular installments. That's a positive indicator. I sat with that for a moment. The money he took, and the process I used to recover it, had combined to make my financial picture, to a mortgage underwriter, marginally stronger than it had been before. There is something in that which I cannot decide if it is ironic or simply accurate. Fed approved my application in June. I closed on a 2-bedroom condo in the neighborhood I had been watching for 2 years. In July, the down payment was $27,000, funded by the $11,000 Colin returned at the resort, the first repayment installment, and the remainder of my original savings that had not been transferred. I signed the documents on a Thursday morning. I drove to the condo afterward and stood in the empty living room with the keys in my hand and the afternoon light coming through the west-facing windows. I stood there for a while. I had built this. The savings and the years and the spreadsheet and the mortgage appointment and the drive to Scottsdale and the conversation at the pool and the police report and the civil judgment and the repayment schedule. All of it had led to this empty room with the afternoon light in it and the keys in my hand. I thought about Colin at the pool. I thought about the paper umbrella drink and the relaxed posture and the 2 seconds of expression before the reconstruction collapsed. I thought about what he had said at the end of our conversation. Are you still going to file the report? I thought about what I had said back. I love you. That has not changed. This has also not changed. Both were still true. Standing in my own living room, in July, both were still true. I call Colin once a month now. Not Sunday calls, the way they used to be. Shorter calls. More careful, with the particular quality of conversations between people who are rebuilding something, and have not yet established what it is being built into. He's in therapy. He told me on the 3rd call. He said he had started going 2 weeks after the resort, because he had been sitting with what he had done, and had found he could not hold it alone, and had needed somewhere to put it. He said the therapist had helped him understand some things about the pattern that led to the call, the accumulated debt, and the reclassification, and the escalation. He said he was working on it. I said, I'm glad. I meant it. He asked if I would ever fully trust him again. I said, I did not know yet, and I was not going to tell him something I wasn't sure of. He said, that's fair. I said, Colin, you are still my brother. I did not file the report to destroy you. I filed it because you took $18,000 of my savings on a false story, and the record needed to exist. Both of those things are true. At the same time, he said, I know. I said, keep going to therapy. He said, I am. We talked for a few more minutes about ordinary things, his next business idea, which he described with the familiar enthusiasm, and which I received with the familiar combination of hope and reservation. My condo, which he asked about, the cactus I had put on the windowsill, the first plant in my first owned home, which I described, and which made him laugh. The real laugh, not the calculating one. I will take that. Here is what I know. After all of it, when someone you love calls you from what sounds like a hospital, the pull to help is not a weakness. It is the evidence of a relationship that means something. Do not let what happened to me make you harden that pull into suspicion. That is not the lesson. The lesson is documentation. The lesson is that love and verification are not opposites. The lesson is that you can transfer the money and call the hospital to confirm the admission, and both of those actions can live in the same relationship without contradiction. That verification is not distrust. It is the practice of someone who takes the relationship seriously enough to keep it clean. If I had called the hospital on Tuesday evening, the billing department, the admissions line, any line that would have confirmed a patient by name, I would have known on Tuesday what I knew on Friday from a pool photograph. That call would have taken 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Would have saved me a drive to Scottsdale, a civil filing, a police report, and the particular grief of understanding that someone you loved had looked at your savings and seen a story to tell. Verify. Not because you expect the worst, because you respect yourself enough to know what is actually happening before you respond to what you are told is happening. And if you do find yourself in the parking lot of a resort in Scottsdale, with your coworker in the driver's seat, and your attorney on the phone, and the photograph's still open on your phone screen. Know this. You have everything you need. The documentation is there. The truth is there. The pool is 34 minutes away. Drive. That's my story. A transfer. A paper umbrella drink. And a drive to Scottsdale that got most of it back before the sun went down. This found you at the right moment. Share it with someone who needs to hear that love does not require you to skip the verification step. Drop a comment. Tell me how you protected yourself while still choosing the relationship. I read every one. Subscribe to the Family Ledger. I'll see you in the next story.